We talked to several of the most popular potential Colts draft picks today. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Hello, everyone. It's Zach Hicks and Jake Arthur of the Locked On Colts podcast, and obviously of HorseshoeHuddle.com. I'm your favorite film nerd over there. Jake is boots on the ground, and we kind of approached it a different way today. Jake was in the mosh pits. He was just doing all the dirty work here at the NFL Combine Media Day sessions.
We was in the mud, y'all.
We was in the mud. No, you were in the mud. I was, wiping my feet off on the backside over there.
It's funny because I can't feel my feet still to this moment.
Yeah, I was sitting back. I was letting Jake get in there with some of the top prospects at this event. But luckily, Jake was able to get in there with tight end Brock Bowers, with cornerback Terrion Arnold, and with cornerback Cooper DeJean. I know those are three of your guys' favorite prospects. So Jake got in there. He's going to give us a lowdown on each of these three guys. And then obviously we're going to get some of my nerdy quips in there about how much these guys fit the Colts. But Jake, let's start off with the man of the hour, Brock Bowers. Bowers, obviously every Colts fan's dream, most NFL fans' dream for their NFL team in this draft. Two-time Mackey Award winner, fantastic things at the college level with Georgia. And he met with the Colts today, or met with the Colts the last couple of days.
At some point, yeah. So he has been asked if you've met with Team XYZ. He's met with half the teams in the league. But he did confirm that he met with the Colts, and then I followed that up with saying, Colts tight end coach Tom Manning comes from the college game, and he still likes a lot of college concepts. What's that like, meeting with someone with those kind of ideas? That it's kind of an easy avenue from college into the pros. And he was really bullish on that aspect of it, potentially having a tight ends coach that is so forward thinking. Like we saw a lot of Tom Manning's influence, not just on the tight ends, obviously, but in Shane Steichen's offense overall this year.
Yes.
So he's a big fan of that. Big fan of Anthony Richardson, because at Georgia, he obviously would see Florida play Florida. They're huge rivals. And he said he's an athletic freak. He gave Georgia's defense fits, and that's a defense that's an NFL factory. So he would be really high on playing for a coach like Tom Manning, playing with a quarterback like Anthony Richardson. He was asked, obviously, what are some of your strengths? What are some of the things you work on? He acknowledged, run after catch is my thing, my athleticism, creating extra yards. He acknowledged he does want to work on blocking, which is pretty much everyone's most correctable thing. Gripe about him because he can't really change his size. I liked that specifically. He went into it though. He wants to work on combating defenders' counter moves on blocks. Like if they get free from the first instance, sticking with it and like learning how to finish blocks essentially. So that's really good to hear a guy go further into what he needs to work on, especially when you're a blue chip prospect that is everyone's top tight end. So that was really good to hear from him. Overall, he just seems like a really positive player who knows what he needs to work on, knows his strengths. Says, his favorite thing is to get those short screen passes with opportunities to create yards after catch. He really relishes it just as much as he does catching a 35-yard ball down the sideline.
Jake, are you telling me that he wants to go to an offense that incorporates tight end screens and quick hitters like mesh concepts and drags and flats and stuff to their tight ends and a lot of RPO concepts and stuff too? That's crazy, man. I wonder what team could fit that.
This may be controversial, but I feel like no disrespect. Now, anytime that is said, it's always followed with disrespect.
Right.
but I'd rather see Brock Bowers taking a screen pass on a 3rd and 4th or short rather than Mo Alley-Cox.
Okay. All right. Too far with your snarkiness.
I love you, Mo, but I think you would agree.
No, I really liked what Brock Bowers had to say today. And in particular, when he talked about his meeting with the Colts, he did go into detail with, it wasn't just Tom Manning in that room. Now, he didn't list off every single person who was in that room, because honestly, he probably doesn't even know half the names that were in that room. But he said it was a pretty big contingent, a pretty in-depth interview, right?
Yeah, so like 10, 15 guys, which sounds like a lot, but it's probably pretty standard. Like, you're thinking of the scouting departments in there, including, Ed Dodds and Chris Ballard, I'm sure, probably Shane. Depending on who the prospect is, there'll probably be several members of that coaching staff. So you're gonna get Shane, you're gonna get Jim Bob Cooter, Tom Manning, some of those guys in there. So it seems like a lot of people, but still, that's a lot of important people forming an opinion on someone who they would have to take by 15.
Yeah, no, I love the fit of Brock Bowers in this offense. I think if some miracle happens and he's there at 15, or if the Colts could even go up to, maybe 13 or 12 to get him, I think it makes a ton of sense for the Indianapolis Colts. This is a blue chip player who puts your offense over the top. And I know we love Jelani Woods. We love the potential of Jelani Woods in this offense, but we can't count on that right now. We can count on Brock Bowers if he's there at 15.
Yeah.
So I think this is the guy if he's there at 15, at least for me. I don't know if that's going to be the case for the Colts, but I'm excited for him this draft process. I think he just brings a lot of potential, and I think the Colts are one of the best overall fits for him in this draft class.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to discount Woods, but like, even if he comes back healthy, okay, like we're moving further along into the NFL of tight ends and receivers just being pass catchers. Not like, receivers will always be receivers, but these tight ends, it's moving further into them not really being tight ends necessarily. Like, the group is pass catcher, offensive weapons. And so you can get however many of these guys on the field as you legally can. It does not matter. Like, you can have Jelani Woods and Brock Bowers on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
They love 2 tight end sets. Like, it can be done. Just think of anything added that Jelani Woods is able to bring to it after already getting Brock Bowers. Incredible potential with that group.
Yeah, it's the healthiest way to do it, because if you don't factor in Jelani Woods to your tight end conversation, which I know Chris Ballard has been doing in his recent interviews, but if you don't factor him in, if you don't get him back, you're not being punished for that. Because if you don't get him back, or he's not fully back to being Jelani Woods, you anticipated that, you're doing fine without that. But if you do get him back as being Jelani Woods, then you have that with a Brock Bowers or with a Jatavian Sanders or whoever we're talking about here. So I don't think Jelani Woods factors into it too much, even though Ballard is really doing his Ballard thing and saying like, oh yeah, we like who we have and Jelani's got potential and all that stuff. I do think if Brock Bowers there at 15, it's a really real option for the Colts, and his press conference availability kind of proved that, or just showed, again, further that hype train there that we're trying to talk about here. But coming up, guys, we're going to talk about another player that really fits the Indianapolis Colts, and that is Iowa cornerback Cooper DeJean. We're going to talk about him here in just a second. But first, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's the first thing you do if you had an extra hour in your day? Go for a run, take a nap, read a book, show up for a friend. A lot of us spend our lives wishing we had more time. The question is, time for what? If time was unlimited, how would you use it? The best way to squeeze in that special thing into your schedule is to knowing what is important to you and make it a priority. Therapy can help you find what matters to you so you can do more of it. Personally, I think the most important things in my life, besides the Colts, are my wife and my little cockapoo dog. Those are my favorite things in the world, and I need to make more time for them. And therapy has been a great way of just, helping me step back and say, look, these are the 2 most important things to me, and I need to make time for them, even in this busy season that we're in with draft content and free agent content. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, Jake, we're diving into everyone in Indianapolis Colts fans' favorite prospect here, and that is Cooper DeJean, cornerback from Iowa. Now, personally, before I let you talk about his press availability, Cooper DeJean really is a guy where I've talked to multiple people who cover other teams and multiple people who work for other teams. And jokingly, they've come up to me and said, "Hey, don't let Ballard get Cooper DeJean. Hey, try to talk Ballard off Cooper DeJean," because again, a lot of this is speculation. A lot of people don't know exactly who Chris Ballard is going to take, but watching the press conference, watching the film, looking at the traits, this is a guy that just screams, "Oh yeah, Chris Ballard." This is a Midwesterner guy, Big Ten guy, super productive, super athletic, really nice demeanor. Like, this is a Chris Ballard guy. But what kind of impression did you get from Cooper DeJean at his press conference availability?
Yeah, super grounded guy. I mean, he screams Midwest, just like really laid back, like low key. Seems like the guy just does his job and like really is a student of the game and wants to do it well. It seems like he would fit into a locker room pretty seamlessly. But no, this is definitely a guy that it makes all the sense in the world to come to Indy. He's got the size, he's got the athleticism, that plus trait of his is he's got that playmaker gene, great punt returner. He can take the ball away. It does make so much sense. And just like you said, we've been hearing a lot about a lot of people around here on Twitter connecting those dots, and it's I can see why. Now, I think Ballard would prefer to maybe get some offensive playmaker there at 15, or if he trades down a little bit, sure. But I think he would also be in love with the prospect of getting someone like DeJean to really help complete that secondary.
Yeah, I mean, look, if we're looking at DeJean as an outside corner, I mean, he fits a lot of what Gus Bradley wants. He has the length, he has the physicality, he has the playmaking ability, he has the experience in a zone dropping type of scheme there at Iowa. So it does make a lot of sense with Gus Bradley. But I think the big thing that people were really asking was, is he a safety? Is he a nickel guy? Is he an outside corner? And he got asked that question quite a bit today, right, Jake?
Yeah, he did. And he essentially was asked it 2 or 3 different ways, but he said he's comfortable doing all of it. Like he tries to keep the mentality of an outside corner, whether he's playing inside or even back there back there in the deep third of the field. But it feels like he knows what he's supposed to do in each spot, and he's not just being put there because he's athletic. He understands the roles all over the place. I love his mentality of being physical and wanting to be hard-nosed and being disruptive, even at the close to the line of scrimmage when he can be. But no, I mean, he knows he's got the range. He's got the smarts to identify what the offense is trying to do pre-snap. Like, and puts the effort into identifying what offenses are doing before the snap. That's something that was asked about was, what kind of a role does, the behind the scenes stuff, the intricacies of being a football player, not just that God-given ability, like the stuff you don't see, like how much weight do you put on that? And that is something that he works at. So for me, that's always incredibly important. Like, I like to hear about the stuff you don't see on tape, because to me, that's what puts you over the edge. Like, we've seen a million guys who are brilliant athletes just flame out because they don't care. And having that insane athletic ability and actually, having the effort to take it somewhere, I think is just such a huge X factor, and he has it.
Yeah. No, I think he's a guy who checks off a lot of boxes across the board. Again, if you're looking for a Ballard type corner, it's the length, it's the physicality, it's the playmaking ability. He's got all of those things that Chris Ballard certainly covets. And again, we're talking about one of the best fits in this draft for the Gus Bradley scheme. So I think on paper, it's a great fit. And even if you're talking, safety, nickel corner, outside corner, I can envision a very realistic role where even if Kenny Moore is back next year, he can have a similar type of role to Kenny, either as the successor or as the backup, or just, again, in a similar type way where you play a lot of nickel corner in those nickel sets and those dime sets, play outside in base defense. And then, in some of those inverted cover 2 type looks, you're dropping Cooper DeJean or Kenny Moore back into that deep safety type role and having them over the top. A guy who has great feel for the game, a guy who's very physical and can make those tackles and run fits that you like. A guy again who can just know when the ball is going to come to him and he can make a play on the ball. A lot of really good things out of Cooper DeJean. And like I said, I mean, this is a guy where when I've been talking with other guys for beat reporters for other teams and stuff like that, they've all said, this is a Chris Ballard type of guy if I've seen one. Again, don't put too much into that because they don't know the team as well as we do or as well as, other people around Indy do. But I do think, people are starting to pick up on what the Chris Ballard way is and what the Chris Ballard type is. And I do think Cooper DeJean very much fits that.
Yeah, and last thing on him is I think he brings a lot to the table that, again, Gus Bradley and Ron Milas really like because they like versatility in that room. You've got Nick Cross, who they say, they say he can play free, strong, and nickel. We know Julian Blackmon can do that. We've seen them move pieces around, especially in the second half of the season when injuries were just really starting to weigh on them. And DeJean is, again, another guy you can move around anywhere. And we've talked about, Kenny, even if they bring Kenny Moore back, you need a young player who's capable of providing some of the things that he does, because there will come the day where Kenny's not here anymore or his athletic ability just isn't what it used to be. And you just mentioned it. Like, Cooper seems like a great, eventual replacement for Kenny, because yes, Kenny is a nickel, but he's also a 100% snap guy.
Yep.
He's also your top outside corner. So you're losing a lot if you lose Kenny for a game. And so having a guy with the position versatility, like, that's huge.
Yeah. And I got one more big question for you, Jake, when it comes to Cooper DeJean's just that press conference availability. Did he meet with the Jaguars? Did he meet with the Texans? Did he meet with the Colts? Did he meet with?
Yeah, I'm gonna lose my mind here this week before it's all over.
Look, guys, these prospects, they meet almost with every team informally and a handful of teams formally. So I guess, look, formal interviews, I guess they do serve some purpose to figure out who they're meeting with there. But even then, formal interview doesn't mean that they're interested in that player. It could just mean, hey, we have a medical recheck to do here with this guy. So keep that in the back of your mind. But yes, if we've learned anything from these press conferences, it's the 10 teams they have met with, because we got 10 questions specifically asking about those teams.
Yeah, if you want to know how I feel about it, go to the YouTube channel, check out the Brock Bowers video, and he is asked about a team right away, and you can hear my dissatisfaction immediately. So if you want to hear that, go check out the Brock Bowers interview.
Definitely. But coming up, guys, we have one more cornerback to talk about today, and that is Terrion Arnold from Alabama, a guy who I loved coming into the week, but I feel like every media person here is in love with now leaving this week. But first, get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Indiana Pacers fans, I know it's been a really weird season, but mostly fun season, just a weird season at times. A lot of points, bet the over on every single game, every single week with that. But go to FanDuel and just have some fun with this Pacers team. I know it's a fun time to watch. Make sure it's a fun time to bet as well. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, Jake, we're talking one more cornerback here. Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. I know a lot of you Colts fans love him. I was always of the opinion coming into this week where, like, yes, if he's there at 15, you run up there, you submit that pick, and you say, all right, cool, we have our outside corner. We have this superstar that's going to be here for a while, but I don't know if he's going to be there at 15 because he's going to test out of this world. He's an Alabama corner. He's physical. And today just kind of proved that he's got that big personality that teams love.
Oh, absolutely. He is my star of the press availability so far. How much I thought of CJ Stroud's availability last year is what I thought of Terrion Arnold. That guy commands a room. There's not a lack of confidence about him. But at the same time, it doesn't seem like arrogance. Like, he is just sure of what he is. And I've got to imagine, I think I even heard about, some of his meetings with teams are going really, really well because teams love that confidence, especially from a corner. He told one story about, I actually think it was a huge scrum, but it was our own James Boyd asked, there's no shortage of confidence to you. Has there ever been a point where you lacked confidence? And he talked about getting benched against some team like a year or two ago. And he said he would never let that happen again. Even though it was one of his friends on the team who replaced him in the lineup, he says it to himself every single day when he wakes up. I will never let that happen again. The guy seems like the ultimate leader, very close with his teammates, but like one of those guys who will not let you mope and pout. Like he will pick you up and you will keep going. Like what you want in like a quarterback as a field general is like Terrion Arnold as a corner. Like there was nothing not to love about him. And again, every media member's probably favorite interview of the week so far.
Yeah, and we see a lot of corners with this mindset. Now, obviously, a lot more of it goes into it than just mindset, but we see a lot of corners with this mindset go super early in the draft. I mean, Devon Witherspoon was the first cornerback off the board last year, and he was very, very much the same exact way. I'm not going to say which team it was, but my buddy who is close with Witherspoon told me that there was a team that was like, yeah, we're not going to be in position to draft him, but man, I love the film, and I love just the energy and just how crazy this guy is. So he went super high. We've seen it with J.C. Horn. We've seen it with Jair Alexander. We've seen it with Sauce Gardner. These cornerbacks that have the confidence and the physicality to be in your face, not only on the field, but off the field, and let you know about it. I mean, these corners go high because that's what teams want in their cornerback room. It's what DB coaches want in their DB room. So Terrion Arnold did not lack for confidence, and that's exactly how cornerbacks should be. But Jake, you have in here that he met with the Indianapolis Colts, and apparently it was a pretty memorable interview there.
Yeah, I mean, in these interviews, teams often go over plays with players. They want them to identify what they're seeing, just to kind of get on the same page or just see how they think, how they process things. And, players oftentimes take notes and so forth, but no notes needed from Arnold because he doesn't need it. He's got like a photographic memory. He doesn't need to see something twice.
That's awesome.
So the Colts throw something up for him. He's able to regurgitate it back to him. Yeah. And that's great. That's great. Again, because I talked about it with DeJean, the behind the scenes stuff, what goes on between your ears, man. Like he is another guy. He's a junkie. I asked him specifically about the behind the scenes stuff, what goes on when there's not eyes on you, weight room, film room, all that. And he seems like he is obsessed with it. And he gave me a great answer on that. He talked exactly about what I was just saying. You have to be tenacious in preparation when no one's looking, that's integrity. And, you want those kind of players. We hear Ballard and Steichen talking about that all the time. He wants to know what the offense is doing before they're going to do it. Yeah. Essentially, he wants to be uber prepared. Everything about him, film, mentality, all of it just screams alpha cornerback, island cornerback. He wants that matchup against like a Marvin Harrison Jr. Yep. If you want someone on your defense to follow a top wide receiver around, you're not going to look beyond Arnold because that's your guy.
Yeah, and that's why he's going to go top 5 or 7 in this
draft.
That dude
is going to go high.
Now, I would love him at 15, but I don't know how realistic it is. But look, you have to be prepared for these things because you never know what's going to happen if a guy's going to fall for this or that reason whatsoever. And look, a guy like Arnold has no reason being there at 15, but it can happen. But I love that you mentioned that, he didn't have to take notes in the Colts meeting room because look, when you're coming from a Saban-led defense, you've seen it all. You've seen every aspect of defense. You've seen what the NFL is doing. You've seen what the peak of college football is doing when it comes to defensive schematics and stuff. So, he's seen a lot of it there. But I love Terrion Arnold, man. Former safety as well that converted to corner. I know the Colts love doing that. It's never really worked out for them, but they love doing it.
Yeah.
But former safety at corner too, and he brings kind of that mindset, right?
Yeah, and he wants. I ask about the importance of tackling when you're a cornerback too, because that's a super competitive guy.
Yeah,
and he wants it. He wants to be able to tackle. And he basically reiterated things we've heard from the Colts in the past, like Gus Bradley, for example, Matt Eberflus, even before. you're never going to be a good tackling defense unless your cornerbacks are into it too. And Arnold wants to be the one that kills the play at the line of scrimmage, and he's a corner. So you just love that mentality, especially like out of the slot. He said he turns into a linebacker when he's lining up in the slot. He said that, and you don't hear cornerbacks, a lot of these guys who don't relish contact, say that they turn into a linebacker.
Yeah.
So that was really great to see, because matching him up with a guy like Juju Brents who has the same mentality, that's nice. That's nice.
And one more thing of note too, I think the first two guys we mentioned, Bowers and DeJean, are unlikely to work out this week. Like DeJean's not working out. I don't think Bowers is going to work out.
DeJean said he just got cleared like a week ago, so he's just flat out not ready, but he will work out sometime before the combine, probably not at their pro day.
Yes, and I don't believe that Bowers is going to work out, but Arnold, I believe, should be working out this week, and it's going to be a show. Yep. It's going to be a show, man. He's a one-of-one athlete. He's a one-of-one competitor. He's a one-of-one player on film, and he's going to be a top 5 to 7 player. But again, we have to be prepared. We love Terrion Arnold, and we would love for him to be there at 15. I believe that's all we have for today, though, guys. Before we get out of here, though, the Indy Draft Guides pre-orders are now open for $8.99 with code DRAFTMISS. You get access to an essential piece of reading for Colts fans, both before and after the draft, featuring 225 in-depth scouting reports, features, and much more. You guys can click the link in the show notes to pre-order today and learn all about these 3 players that we talked about on today's episode. And if you guys don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at ZachKicks2, all on Twitter. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We love your guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll be back here tomorrow afternoon. My beautiful friends, back here yet again tomorrow afternoon.